Hey guys, I'm Mike Carleo, and this is my second installment of my Guitar for Dummies series. And today, we're going to talk about the exercises it takes to get more adept to my first installment, which are the rules of guitar. So let's get started. Today, I want to show you my first exercise is what I call the picking exercise. And I do this in 4 phases. The first phase only requires the right hand, no left hand at all. And what we're going to do is we're going to do alternate picking, which is a form of picking that does down and up picking without repeating downs or without repeating ups. So you're always going to be doing down, up. And I like to get started to do 3 picks on each string, going from the big E string up to the little E string, back down to the big E string. So all you would do is just pick down, up, 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 and then going backwards. And if you noticed, I made sure that I did not repeat any downs or any ups. That's very important because we really want to create a sense of structure when we're practicing, so we don't just go on autopilot, and we make sure that we stay engaged and we practice with intent. So the second phase includes now both hands. And what you're going to use is you're going to use your first finger on the first fret, your second finger on the second fret, and your third finger on the third fret. We're going to leave out the pinky right now because the first and second phase only require the 3 fingers. So we're going to do the same thing with the right hand, and all we're going to do is just fret each fret now with each pick. So we're going to go down on 1, up on 2, down on 3, up on 1, down on 2, up on 3, down on 1, up on 2, down on 3, up on 1, down on 2, up on 3, down on 1, up on 2, down on 3, up on 1, down on 2, up on 3. So that's the second phase, is just going forwards and getting used to not having any breaks in between the strings and keeping the picking pattern precisely correct. Now the third phase requires you to go forwards and then backwards. And the way I like to do this is I like to start going backwards right up on the little E string, just practicing going backwards. So you would do up on 3, down on 2, up on 1, down on 3, up on 2, down on 1, and so forth. The most important thing to remember when you're going forwards and backwards is as during the turnaround comes, we don't want to repeat the third fret because that's going to change our picking pattern on the reciprocal string going backwards. And we want to try to keep it the same so we keep everything uniform. So I'm going to go forwards and then turn it around backwards, starting on the B string. So down on 1, up on 2, down on 3, up on 1, down on 2, up on 3, down on 2, up on 1, down on 3, up on 2, down on 1, and so forth going backwards. The biggest thing is we have to make sure we don't repeat this third fret because what we're going to do is we're going to flip around all of the picks and it's going to probably confuse us. We don't want that. So the last phase, the fourth phase, includes the pinky. So you can do the same thing, but just do it 4 times. And this creates an even number on each string, so it's going to be the same going forward and the same going backwards. So all you would do is down on the first fret, up on the second fret, down on the third fret, up on the fourth fret. And do that for all the strings. And the same thing goes for going backwards on 4 fingers. You don't want to repeat the 4th finger. So you go down on 1, up on 2, down on 3, up on 4, down on 3, up on 2, down on 1. So every string that's going backwards always has an up pick. So it's always the same when you're doing 4 fingers. And that's the picking exercise. The second exercise I want to talk about today is a chordal exercise. So we're going to do 2 separate exercises using 2 separate sets of chords. The first one is more of a beginner chordal exercise and the second one is a little more advanced. The first one includes an E major chord, a D major chord, an A major chord, an A minor chord, and then back to an E major chord. So once you learn those open chords, it's going to be pretty easy to do this exercise. So I want to make sure that I strum each chord 4 times and transition to the next chord without taking any breaks. So I want to try to keep an equal amount of time in between chords. And the way we can practice this is by using the metronome. And in a later installment, I'm going to teach you guys how to practice with the metronome correctly, because a lot of people do not practice with the metronome correctly, and it creates more of a hassle and a burden rather than just a really good tool to use that makes us better players. So save that for later. Let's get back to the chordal exercise. So 4 times in between these chords, starting with E, then to D, then A minor, and then back to E. So it's a 1, 7, 4, minor 4, back to 1. So you notice that there was no breaks in between chords, and I did all of down strums. I did no strumming pattern. All I do is just want to try to keep it simple, because this is mostly a left-hand technique and also memorization. I want to note something. I fret an A major chord on this exercise with my 2nd, 3rd, and 4th finger, because I know the next chord is going to be an A minor chord, which requires my 1st finger to go down. So I try to limit my mobility, and I try to make it pretty simple of just moving 2 fingers, picking up my pinky and putting down my 1st finger on the fretboard to make an A minor chord. Okay, that was that. Now the second set of chords is a little tougher, and it starts with a C major chord, then it goes to an A minor chord, then it goes to an F major chord, then to a G chord, and then back to a C chord. So it would be a 1, 6, 4, 5, a nice greasy type of chordal progression. So let's do that. And we're going to do the same thing, 4 down strums for each chord without taking any breaks in between. And one thing to note here is when I fret the G chord, I like to put my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, which gives it more of an open sound, and this is the way most guitar players who play electric guitar play this. And it is pretty much my favorite chord that I play on the guitar. It just sounds the biggest and the fullest. So those are the 2 sets of chordal exercises that I have. So those were the first 2 exercises that I teach to every beginner student. And I want to make sure that they can understand how to do the rules of guitar for my first installment, that the thumb always rotates from the underneath the neck to over the neck when you go from the bottom strings to the top strings, and then when the thumb stays over the neck on all open chords. In my next installment, I'm going to talk about how to get to know the fretboard better. And that's really important when it comes to playing guitar, because the funny joke that goes along all the time is, how do you get a guitar player to stop playing? You put a piece of music in front of them. And my job as a teacher is to try to change that joke and make sure they can still play when the sheet music comes in front of them. So you can check out more of me at my website down below at michaelcarleo.com for more information. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.